Welcome. I'm Cheryl Mitchell. I'm the president of Tree 11, which is a retreat and learning center located on a sheep farm here in Addison County. And people often ask, so why are you interested in early childhood? And really it's because those of us that explore the relationships between spirit, nature, and social justice feel that the way our communities support young children and their families is really the critically important hallmark of how we're doing as a community. So I'm thrilled to be working with Building Bright Futures, the Addison County group Let's Grow Kids, which is an education program that's statewide, Middlebury Community Television, and of course Trillivin to do these shows with you. And very thrilled that my guests today are Laurie Mumley and Andrea Grimm. They're both from the Department for Children and Families, and they'll be here talking with us about National Foster Care Month and also very specifically about what's going on in Addison County. So welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. And I think maybe we'll start with you, Andrea. Can you give us an overview of DCF in Addison County?
Absolutely. So we are the Department for Children and Families, and we work with children ages 0 to 22. And we become involved in families' lives when there have been reports of concern relative to abuse or neglect. We also work with families whose children are exhibiting at-risk behaviors as well, and so we work with youth who go on to be involved in the juvenile justice system as well. And so that's how we interface in some lives of youth and family in this community.
And in the olden days, you used to be called Child Protection. Are you still called Child Protection?
We are still the Child Protection Agency as well, and so our name has changed over time, but our mission has not changed, for sure.
Can you give us some idea about how many families you might be serving or seeing here in Addison County?
Sure. So as of the end of our first quarter, which was March 31st of this year, we had about 82 children in DCF custody who are placed in foster homes or in kinship care or who are in a residential setting. And then we also have a number of other families whom we serve who are not involved through the court system. And so in all we have close to about 175 open cases in our office.
Wow. Okay. And your office now is on Route 7 South, is that right?
We are. We've been there for maybe, I don't know, maybe 5, I lose track of time, but maybe 5 or so years now. And so we are co-housed with the Department of Health and Economic Services and voc rehab as well.
Right. Okay. We'll maybe come back to this in a while about child abuse and neglect and child protection. But since our special focus is on foster care this month, I'm wondering, Laurie, if you could tell us a little bit about what your job description is, what you do, and how you support foster parents.
Sure. My name is Laurie Mumley. I'm the resource coordinator at Middlebury DCF. And what that means is I'm in charge of recruiting, training, supporting, and all things foster care in Addison County, as well as placing children in foster homes when there's a need.
And how do you recruit foster families?
Well, we have a very limited budget, as you might expect. Some of the things that we do really is try and retain the great homes that we do have, and that is part of recruiting. I have some fantastic bookmarks that I'll be leaving at the library today.
Great.
And post flyers and things like that. There are some statewide campaigns. There's a radio ad out right now.
Do you have a sense of how people that are exploring becoming foster parents typically hear about you? What's the usual? Do they call you up, or does a friend say, you know, I've got this friend?
Usually people call me up, and I think the statistics are something like they have to hear about foster care 7 to 10 times before actually coming forward to be a foster parent. They reach out to me, and we start the conversations in the application process.
So what's involved? What does it take to be a foster parent?
A good sense of humor.
Okay.
A spare bedroom. and the ability to pass background checks. And other than that, it's a commitment to providing a safe home for children. Foster parents in Addison County are part of a pretty strong team. Kids in our custody come with a large team of people, and the foster parents are part of that team.
So you're not out there by yourself if you
No.
take on a foster child.
No.
And what ages of children are typically moving into foster care?
Every time I have answered that, it then changes.
Oh, okay.
Right now,
Recently, I should say.
recently, it's been the under 6 population
Yes.
and
Wow.
the teenage population.
Right. There's been an increase in the last couple of years statewide in terms of the number of children 0 to 5 who've entered care. And when I was taking a look at statistics to think about coming here today, there was 536 children under the age of 5 who were currently in custody as of March 31st. So a big influx in the 0 to 5 population. And that's due in part to, I think, the opiate epidemic, which the state is experiencing, and the number of parents who are affected by substance use.
Is that happening here in Addison County as well?
It is, yes. Yes.
So if you became a foster parent and you were working with a child whose family was opiate addicted, what would be the expectation about you helping, as the foster parent, helping the biological parent to overcome that?
Well, the foster parent role is not to actually help
Help the
the
parent.
parent
Right.
overcome their addiction.
Okay.
That would be more the social worker's role and our partner agencies. But the foster parents do support that case plan. They might attend shared parenting meetings with the birth parents and work together on common goals for the good of the child.
Is there compensation for being a foster parent?
We have a very small stipend that's available for reimbursement of the expense of having a child in your home. And that varies based on the child's age, based on the foster parent's experience, and based on if the child has special needs or not.
And if a child, let's say they're already involved or enrolled in preschool or child care or in elementary school, will the child be able to stay in that setting when they move to your foster home?
Absolutely, yes. We pay for the child care. All our children are also on Medicaid, so they come with health insurance as well.
So what if you wanted to adopt a child? Is foster care a good route for adopting a child, or is this a different world?
It can be a great route, but there are no guarantees. With the overwhelming majority of our kids, the original plan, at least, is to reunify with their birth parents. If that cannot happen safely, then that child may become available for adoption. And generally, if that happens, the family that they're placed with will step up and adopt that child.
So are foster parents, do they get together regularly with each other? Do they get together with, who supports them besides you?
Well, the whole office does. We do a few events that are pretty big events. We do a foster family picnic that'll be coming up next month. We do a Christmas party for foster families. There is a statewide organization as well that does a conference. There's the Kinship organization that does a conference. So there are those really large events. In Addison County, what's been happening is a lot of our foster families have been connecting through some of our advanced trainings and are now talking about starting up a foster parent support group again, which would be fantastic.
Right, yeah. When you talk about advanced trainings, is there an initial training that people are required to do before they can become foster parents?
There is. As part of the licensing process, foster parents need to attend training. It's a 2-part training. The first part focuses on an overview of the system and how things work. And the second part deals more with kind of the meatier topics like attachment, grief and loss, sexual abuse and trauma, parenting teens, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a 6-week class, and the other one's a 2 to 3 week class, 1 night a week.
We're also offering through the Placement Stability Project, we're also offering, I would say, a more advanced class as well. It's called the Resource Parent Curriculum, which does a much deeper dive into some of the topics that Laurie mentioned in terms of the attachment and grief and loss and trauma.
Yeah. Are those associated with like CCV or someplace that people could get college credit for taking that training?
The Child Welfare Training Partnership through UVM is the one that oversees all of our trainings, and they hire our instructors to do these programs. Right now it's not set up for college credit, although certainly I think the argument could be made that they would be worth it. So it's not set up for that now. I think they're looking to change that a bit, but I wouldn't want to speak for the partnership at this point. And they're certainly looking at putting a lot of this stuff online and more
so that people could if they wanted to.
opening it up and making it more available.
Right.
But as Andrea said, we do have a lot of advanced trainings as well. We have the one that we've done a few times now, the advanced trauma training.
And is that with CSAC or?
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You had mentioned, Andrea, the word kinship care.
Yes.
Is that something the same? Is it different?
So Kinship Care is, I feel really lucky that we have lots of kids that we have in custody who are placed in Kinship Care. 41% of the kids that we have in custody through Addison County are placed with kin. So grandma or grandpa or an auntie or somebody who had a pre-existing relationship with that child prior to them entering custody. And so our you know, like I said, we have around 41% of the kids in our county, and statewide the average is around 35% in terms of children being placed in kinship care. So I think more and more kin is stepping forward when children become involved in our system. And
do you recruit kin, or do people just step forward and say, hey, I'd like to take care of Johnny until his mom's okay?
My experience is that generally kin comes forward, and so you know, when the parents reach out to their parents, or an auntie hears something, or whatever the case may be, people pick up the phone and give us a call or show up on our doorstep to say, hey, you know, Johnny came into custody yesterday and I want to be his provider, and so that starts the conversation.
Nice.
So we feel very fortunate to have our kids with people whom they know and trust.
And do friends and relatives need to go through the same training and background checks and stuff that you talked about?
It is the same background checks, a similar training. There's I talked earlier about the 2-part training. The first part for kin is a little bit different. It focuses on some of the differences in kinship care. But the bulk of the training is the exact same.
So do you want to talk about it's National Foster Care Month?
Yes, it is.
Is there something special going on this month that you want to share with us? Other than just highlighting and general education about this issue?
Well, last week we had Vermont declared May as Vermont's Foster Care Month, and that proclamation was signed by the governor last Tuesday. We had a nice representation of Middlebury area foster families come to that ceremony, and kids going to the ceremony, so that was great.
Yes.
We were really well represented. That's the big thing.
That's the big thing. Okay. Yeah.
And then, I mean, just locally, we take the time. I mean, we write thank you notes to all of our foster parents. You know, we're picking up the phone and being intentional about thanking them for continuing to support a kiddo in custody. As Laurie said, we're planning the barbecue for the summer. We need to get kids through school, and then we can all take a break and celebrate the successes of the year. And you know, we just feel very fortunate to have those who are doing foster care supporting our kids in custody. Yeah.
I'm remembering over the years, and some of these things may still be happening and some may not, that there was a project that was putting together backpacks for kids who were moving into foster care. Is that something that's still going on?
And so we have Tatums Tots now. Maybe you can talk a
Tatums
little bit
Tots,
about
okay.
that. It's really wonderful.
Tatums Tots is a fantastic program.
Yes.
It started from a foster mom in Rutland County, and she and her husband lost a child to SIDS. And in his memory, they began foster care. And when they started doing foster care, realized that kids would come into custody with sometimes just the clothes on their back. So they started getting donations, and now every kid, it started in Rutland, Addison was next,
Yes.
but every kid in our county, when they come into custody, gets a backpack with a soft blanket, a stuffed animal, even for the teenagers,
Yes.
personal care items, some toys for the younger ones, and books, all sorts of neat stuff, which is fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really nice.
And are you also serving as a resource? Is the DCF office a resource place where foster parents and biological parents can meet with their child, or is that something that's done through the courts now?
So there are several different ways that foster parents and kiddos can get together, but I would say that more and more we're moving towards when parents are having contact with their children, we try to do it in a more natural setting and in a community setting. Within our building, we have one real visit space, and we try not to use that because it's quite artificial and it's pretty small. So we try to be in churches, we try to have kids on playgrounds, we try to have parents at school functions or sporting events or whatever the case may be. And so we hope that things can be as natural for kids in times when they're involved with our department.
Nice. So do you provide the supervision for those visits, or do you have volunteers do that? Or?
So we have a couple of different programs. Sometimes it is the workers who are supervising the visits, and given the workers' caseloads, that's not necessarily always possible. And we also contract with Easter Seals, who does a lot of our supervised visitation with parents and children, and they many times parents are assigned a coach to work on developing skills to better meet the needs of their child. And so we use Easter Seals quite frequently, and then other times we use Women's Safe when there have been issues of domestic violence in the family situation. So we feel really lucky to have Easter Seals and Women's Safe.
And they sound like great
to help
partners
us. Yes,
for you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm also wondering, you talked about abuse and neglect, and maybe you could just do the 2-second version of if somebody listening today is concerned about something that's happening for a child, what they should do.
Sure. So we have a 24-hour hotline, and I'm not sure if we put the number up, but I
think we did. I think we put Laurie's
Okay.
number up at the end.
So I could tell you the number. So it's 1-800-649-5285, and that is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so if people have concerns about child abuse or neglect, you can pick up the phone and call the 1-800 number. A social worker will receive your phone call and take down your information. And then if it rises to the level of acceptance, then it would be forwarded to the district in which the alleged abuse or neglect happened, and then we would take a look at the information. So that's one way. We also have lots of people who pick up the phone and call us or stop in to say, hey, I have a hypothetical situation here, could I talk to you about that? And we're just as happy to sit down and talk with folks if they want to come by our office as well.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about each of you. Sort of, how did you come to, this is hard work that you're doing. How did you come to be doing it? Maybe since you're the newbie in this office, you could talk about that, even though I think you said you'd been in state government for 22 years.
I've been in state government for almost 29 years.
29 years, okay.
I've been at this office for 2.5 in this role. And what really interested me was the working with foster families. And part of what interested me is I was formerly a foster parent. I adopted through DCF.
Wow.
That is how my daughter joined our household. So personally,
So
it
you have a
means
personal
lot to me.
investing in this, yeah.
I do, and I had heard great things about the Middlebury office for many years.
And are they, once you moved here?
It's a pretty awesome place to be. Most of the time.
Most of the time, okay.
Most
yeah.
of the time.
Great. Do you live down here, or are you still living
I
someplace
live in
else?
Chittenden County.
In Chittenden County. Okay, so you're commuting a little bit, not
Little bit.
horrendous. Great.
Yeah.
And how about you, Andrea? You've been with DCF for 17 years?
I have.
Starting as a social worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started in 1999 as a temp. I was filling in for somebody who had gone back to grad school, and that person went on to do something different, and so I ended up assuming that person's caseload back in '99, and then I became a full-time social worker, and then a supervisor, and then around 3 years ago became the director of the local office.
Wow.
So native Vermonter, grew up in Addison County. I know the people, I know the town, really connected to the people and the kids and the families, and it's just something that I've always wanted to do. And so I'm happy to be doing it.
Oh, good.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how things have changed in the way that we as Vermonters support kids who need all this extra help over the years, in the years that you've been around, and what you might dream about for the future?
What do I dream about for the future? To wave the magic wand. So, I mean, one of the things that's been very consistent over time is that Addison County is an incredibly collaborative community. We have really great working relationships with the counseling service and with the Parent-Child Center and with our local schools and attorneys who help to support our kids. And so I feel very fortunate to have the team of folks to work with who are wrapped around our children and our families. I think our approach to our work has always been very child-centered and family-focused, and I think that we have always looked first to reunify children with families, and when, as Laurie said earlier, when it's not been possible, we hope to connect kids with somebody whom they're familiar with. That's not always possible, and then enters foster care. So what would I wish for more of? I would wish for more housing options for families. I would wish for more childcare spots for children and families. I would wish for more of our kiddos to be closer to home. Some kids that we have in custody are far away from home, and we're looking to bring them back.
Is that mostly if they've had to go into group care someplace?
Yes, yes. So right now we have 7 youth who are placed out of state in residential care, and that's a number that's decreasing. We've averaged around 12 over the time that I've been the director, and so we're working really hard to assess how we can get kiddos home sooner and to support them better in the community. So more of everything, I guess. I would want a little more of everything to go around. Yes.
And let's talk with you, Laurie. First, I want to say it's my neighbor who's a social worker was a foster parent and then adopted her daughter, who actually comes to help us make hay.
Oh,
so
great.
It seems like things work so well for that child and that family. But what would you wish for?
I would wish for a huge number of foster families. And there's always a need because there's always different kiddos. So if you look at my list of active foster homes, I might have, say, 10 homes available, but one is only for boys in the 8 to 12 age range because of who's in their house. And you know, people sometimes have needs in their home that we accommodate. So my list shrinks. And there's needs for multiple types of homes in every single school district. And there are a lot of schools in Addison County. you know, my true wish would be that we didn't need any homes.
Yeah.
My next best wish would be that we had lots of choices so that we could be making the best possible match each and every time.
Could you say something to people out there that maybe they have this in the back of their mind, and I think it's a kind of a scary commitment. It's like getting married or getting pregnant or something.
It isn't a commitment, because one of the things I teach my people is that they can always say no if I call, and it doesn't seem like a good match. They can say no, and I would much prefer somebody say no at the beginning.
That this isn't working, and
or
they could go through the training and be on your list and
Absolutely.
wait.
Or they might decide that, you know what, maybe foster care is too big a commitment, but respite care, I could do respite care and provide care for a weekend so that the placement where the child is can get a break and stay fresh. And
Oh, so that might be a way for people to sort of put their
sometimes
toe
that's
in the water.
Right, it's a
for
great way to
people.
start out.
To start out.
And people do it the same way. They call you and say,
They
"I wanna
call
talk
me
with-"
and we start the paperwork, because there's paperwork. It's a state thing.
Yeah.
And we start the process.
Great. Well, we're running out of time. It's really fascinating talking to both of you, and I'm worried that there are things that you want to talk about that I didn't ask. Do you have anything you would like to cover, Andrea?
I don't think so. I just, again, I just want to thank you for having us, because this is such important work to us. And we know how difficult a job it is to be a foster parent, and we are extremely thankful. And I feel very lucky to have the social workers in the office whom we do, because they're incredibly committed to the children on their caseload and the families with whom they work. And I just think Addison County is a great place to do this work because of the relationships that we have, and so I feel very thankful.
And how about you, Laurie?
Andrea said it perfectly.
Okay. Well, I so much appreciate what both of you do and what the DCF office does as well.
Thank you.
And your longevity in this field of caring for kids and families. I feel like our county is really lucky to have that kind of ongoing commitment to kids.
I agree.
So if you're out there and you're thinking about exploring foster care, their contact information is going to come up in a minute. And it also sounds like you can explore it without making a total lifetime commitment, maybe getting started with respite care. So thank you to both of you for being on the show today. And I thank you guys who are out there in the audience for listening to us. If you have more questions, their contact information will be up in a minute. And I just also wanted to mention that if you're working in a nonprofit, or if you have a project, a nonprofit project, that you wish you could get more education about out to the public, Middlebury Community Television is a fantastic partner in letting people know about it. So please do call the office. I want to thank Dana Anderson from Addison County's Building Bright Futures, who's the producer of this show today. And thank you all for watching.